We've seen a number of both court-adjudicated and election administrators deciding to keep places open longer than they otherwise would have been because those places had to be cleared out.
I like when they do this too sometimes.
The upper Midwest, right? If he doesn't get Pennsylvania, he'd have to take Wisconsin or Michigan, and he gets right there to 278. Now, for Harris, Pennsylvania is huge. It's big. So if she were to take Pennsylvania and hold on to
the perfect hot sauce
come on.
For the season of football, the season of Thanksgiving. The Classic invites everyone to the table with its best.
To 270. So Pennsylvania, pivotal as it has been for so many elections in the past. But again, we're at nail-biter status, 7 battleground states. We just don't know. This is where we stand right now, Nora.
Maurice Dubois, thank you so much. And when we come back, we'll have
keep in mind California is 54
CBS
votes
News
alone.
America Decides, election 2024. We'll be back in a moment.
I keep looking at this House control and go, oh, it's better. No, it's not that.
Get all the CBS News election information.
Oh, Kornacki.
In here, her margin's inside 10 points. It's less than a 50,000.
How are we doing? Still hard to tell. Margins in places where Biden won, she's a little bit behind, but there's still lots of votes to count, and a lot of the votes that are counted late are typically blue. So
for Joe Biden.
It's iffy, but it's again another one of those like
was an 8-point win for Hillary
we
Clinton.
can't know. It's definitely not like, oh, it's looking great. We already know, but we knew it wasn't going to be like that.
This was more than enough for Joe Biden to win Michigan, and this right now looks an awful lot like this. Remember our test coming into the night, one of them was to compare Oakland to its next-door neighbor, Macomb. Macomb is blue right now. This is the blue-collar, Trump-friendly suburban county. There's almost no vote that's been counted there, so yet to be seen.
Yeah, the unfortunate truth is the fact that it is so close is as close as it was expected to be, while still having a decent chance for her to win. So nothing that is like, oh shit, I'm scared, and nothing that's like, oh, this is great, because it's not.
More than offset Trump's strength in the other gigantic blue-collar suburban county. This is a number.
This is the part that still makes it iffy.
The Trump people would be very happy with. The Democrats want that back where it was in
Clinton
2020.
won. So what they're saying is those margins where Clinton had 50 whatever percent, or she had the majority, but she had the lowest majority. Clinton had that majority and lost the national election, lost the overall election, right? Biden had the higher split, and he won the election. Kamala's in between. She obviously needs to be closer up to where Biden was to show an indication that enough people showed out and voted for her to give her the win. And that's why they do these comparisons.
County, outside Lansing here, Biden nearly won it. And again, this 95% basically means all the vote is now in Eaton County. It's gone back to that 2016 level, 51-46, 49-44. That's what the Trump campaign wants to see in counties like this, where they had slippage in counties they won in 2020. They want to get that slippage back. We saw that earlier. We showed you Lackawanna County in Pennsylvania. They did that. They did this just outside Lansing. Here's another place where they really want to do that. You could see right here next to Oakland.
Weird places where she may slip in one, but she's doing better in others.
Mix of sort of suburbia, some
big
rural areas
adjustment
here
across the board.
It's gigantic, kind of between Lansing and Detroit. More than half the vote now counted in Livingston County. And again, just want to show you, this was a bad number for Donald Trump 4 years ago. He won this by a little bit less than 23 points. This was a good number for Donald Trump. He won the state of Michigan in 2016, winning here by about just under 30 points. And his margin tonight is looking more so far like 2016 than it is 2020. This is a pattern that's being repeated. We're showing you, not a lot of counties in Michigan have this much vote in, but in those that are, we're starting to see this. And again, we're seeing this in other areas of the battleground, the northern tier of the battleground. Pennsylvania, we had some more that just came in, almost completely here. It can take you through them. You can start right here, Berks County. Okay, this is where Reading is. One of the things we talked about, Reading has the highest concentration of Hispanic residents of any city in Pennsylvania. The Trump campaign said, we are going to make gains with Hispanic voters. The national exit poll is showing Trump making substantial gains with Hispanic voters tonight. I've seen counties way outside the battleground with large Hispanic populations where Donald Trump has made dramatic gains tonight, some in Virginia. Hudson County, New Jersey is another. And here in Berks County, again, with one of the larger Hispanic populations in Pennsylvania, here's Trump with just about basically the vote here, winning it by 13. Look at that. 4 years
banking
ago,
on that.
He
Come
won
on,
it by
Philadelphia.
8. This is exactly what the Trump campaign said it was going to do in a place like Burke County. It was going to take that and it was going to make it double digits. They've made it double digits in Burke County. We check in on Luzerne County, and again, we've been talking about this one. As that same day vote comes in, this is Wilkes-Barre, this is Hazleton, another county with a substantial Hispanic population, one of the highest in Pennsylvania. Now Trump has hit his 2020 number there, and he's got a long way to go here. All that vote that's still to come in, we expect to be Election Day vote. The pattern, the trend is pretty clear here. So again, you're seeing Trump in good position in one of those big counties, densely populated counties in northeast Pennsylvania. Take a look down here at Cumberland County.
So something that he just mentioned and something that has been talked about so far, a few different things. Again, a lot of the vote that takes the longest to vote or to count is the votes that came in last, right? So the votes that came in the day of on Election Day. If the majority of what is outstanding is Election Day vote, there are some indications. They're just polls, they're exit polls, and they're prediction polls. So those are not super indicative. And when it's this close, they're not that. They're not always like a big flag of how something will turn out. But there were some indications that typically in the past, early votes have been very, very Democratic leaning, very, very blue, whereas Election Day votes have always been pretty red. Something on top of that is very interesting. Especially in 2020, when COVID was going on and everything like that, Democrats were more likely to believe in COVID and that it was dangerous. So a lot more Democrats in that election voted early, voted by mail, and did it to avoid lines and avoid exposure. So that was a major phenomenon where the early votes were blue, typically in those elections. This election, there have been some polls and indications and even actual data of the votes that have been received that a lot more of the mail-in ballots this year were cannibalizing the Election Day vote for Republicans. There was a big shift for whatever reason. There was a really big shift of a lot of consistent Republican Election Day voters that voted early by mail, which was a change, and a lot less of the blue votes, Democratic votes, that came in early because more of them were showing up day of this time around. Some of that was they were seeing how a lot of the Republican people were doing crazy things like lighting shit on fire, and stories of how they were interfering. Shocker, it was a lot of registered Republicans that were doing interference. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. So there's a shift in where these Election Day votes may be more towards the blue side of things than they typically are, and less of that end of the count bump for Republicans that is kind of typical in some places. So that may make some of that a little bit less scary. It also means it's a lot harder to know actually what the fuck is going to happen there too. So it's hard to know. But that's kind of some indications, other little things that make it like, don't be too worried, but also no reason to be like, yes, we got this. It's why everything is so tight and so close. A lot of shifts, a lot of changes in behavior and in voting, like support and in lack of support. It's why it's difficult for them to be making any kind of calls ahead of time and why it's going to be so close. Let's get into the Electoral College. We'll pull up a map and we'll look at some things. I want to get an update on actual live results on where we're at so far. Are these official calls? This one is called early. These ones called pretty early. Let's take a look over here too. Yeah, see, like for some reason Road to 270 or 270 to win is making a lot of early calls. They're pretty indicative, like Utah, Montana. They're more like they're like, yeah, that makes sense, right? But they're probably in the grand scheme of things not actually far enough in to call. Oh, I guess they are. But some of these that maybe they aren't calling that, like I think 270 officially called North Carolina, which is the extra 16. They maybe officially called a couple other things that haven't been actually called yet. So anyway, the way this works, and let's go, I think this one shows it better. The 242 to 108, the road to 270, right? You need at least 270 Electoral College votes to win the presidential seat. What happens is each state individually counts their popular vote. They count all their votes up, and then whoever wins the vote, all of the votes in that state, wins that state. So New York got far enough along that Kamala Harris has enough votes that she's going to win the overall vote in the entire state of New York. Therefore, New York officially as an entire state goes to her. that state is worth 28 electoral college votes. So while she could win this by 10 votes, she could win this by 2 million votes. Either way, she's going to get 28 electoral college votes for it. Same thing in, you know, the opposite side. This in Florida, if Florida was really close but Trump won it by only like 10 votes, he still then gets all 30 of these votes that are slotted for Florida's electoral votes. So what that means is that's why they need at least 270. 270 is that borderline mark that gives them the majority of the electoral votes. And so when we go in, let's go to forecast. Forecast doesn't necessarily indicate one way or the other yet who is going to win. We can mess around with this. I think this is still interactive. No, it's not. How do I get to the interactive one? Is it this? Maybe it's not 270. I was messing with one of them. I'm going to go to forecast. How do I get to that? I want to get to where I can actually edit this a little bit so we can play around with it. I guess this is interactive. Let's refresh. Oh shit, wait. Give me, hold on. Switch maps. I want to see 538 forecast. Let's use that. Okay, so in this case, these are already flagged one way or the other of how they think some of these are going to turn out, right? So whether it's solid red is that they are calling it for sure. Solid blue, they're calling it for sure for Kamala. Light red, light blue, things are leaning that way, but most likely to go one way or the other. And then even lighter is, you know, iffy. Gray or purple are undecided. They don't know how to do, like, which way it's going to go. They don't know how to predict. So if we go ahead and say, it looks like North Carolina is leaning more towards Trump. We'll give him Arizona officially. We'll even give him Nevada, even though Nevada is likely to be kind of a toss-up and difficult to tell. He officially got Iowa. That was called. If Kamala Harris keeps all of the blue states, does this one count? Yeah, I guess either way, it's still blue. That gives her 270 votes. It gives her exactly the 270 if she wins these that are not solid. Which one am I missing? Oh, here we go. That gives her exactly 270. She doesn't need Georgia, but Georgia is a potential win. Obviously, they're looking at numbers where Pennsylvania and Michigan are iffy, but she's in the middle. There's a chance that she could win it. They're kind of in weird places because of how it looks in the way Trump won it against Clinton versus Biden winning it against Trump. So there's like that's why they keep comparing those back and forth between the two different years, because they're looking at, well, if Biden against Trump, the fact that Trump has run so many times gives a lot of data. But if Biden won against Trump with 65% and Clinton lost it against Trump when she had 61% and Kamala's in like 63%, it's hard to tell. But if she keeps these three, which are the more likely ones, she still hits exactly 270 and she wins. I don't know enough about Colorado and New Mexico, but I've seen a lot of places where they lean blue. Georgia, either way, she wins it. Even if he wins it, it doesn't matter. Why is this coming out even? I guess it's not. It's 268. Really fucking close. I don't like that would be the margin she wins by. We'll say maybe she has a chance for this because this is close. And Georgia, they're thinking about it. You know, they're thinking that there are chances for her to get that, right? North Carolina, they're saying, is close too. If she did get it, this is probably her most likely outcome. I don't think she gets Arizona. I really don't know that she'll get North Carolina or Georgia, but again, she doesn't need them to win. She doesn't even need Nevada to win. These are all bonuses if she gets them. She does kind of need any of these. She needs all of these, right? If she doesn't get Michigan, but she does get Georgia, that's a chance for her to win. If she doesn't get Pennsylvania, but she gets Nevada and North Carolina, she can still win. So there's a couple of different ways, but it's all really, really fucking tight, right? There's a few different ways that she can get up to that 270 number. But I do think it's likely that she will get both of these. I think it's more likely that she'll get Pennsylvania. I think Michigan's going to be closer than Pennsylvania, again, because of that very large Arabic American population, that especially Palestinian American population, that she really fucked up the ball on with her messaging. She kind of tweaked like just yesterday, and it was a little bit too late, too late. But Georgia, even if she gets Georgia, she doesn't get North Carolina, and she still loses Michigan. She loses Michigan, she doesn't get Georgia, but she does get North Carolina. If she gets Arizona on a weird swing, she still has another path for it. I think that's less likely, but that's kind of where those numbers come into play, and that's why you're looking at this 270 number so often. That's exactly how many of these electoral college votes she needs. This right here is probably likeliest potential. I know they're talking about Nevada has some chances. They're even saying Arizona has some chances. Georgia is not being called yet. I don't know how to uncheck that. So that's where all that comes into play, and that's why it's hard to tell exactly how this goes. If he gets all of these, he just needs to take one of these blue states. And he wins. So, but again, if she loses two of them, I don't think she has a path. She would have to get all three of these. I think, again, Pennsylvania is likely for her, but say she loses Wisconsin, she doesn't get Georgia, she would need to get all three. Well, she wouldn't need Nevada, but she would need Georgia and North Carolina. But these are less likely. This Sunbelt area, this lower southern area, some of these swing states in the southern area are closer and swing, but they are heavy Republican potential swings. So that's where all of that math comes into play, and that's why they keep messing around with those numbers, and that's what you keep seeing them talking about and covering. Anyway, let's get back into some of this. I would love to see if any of them are talking on a panel. This is interview. That's an ad for one of their shows. Is she speaking, or are they just... No, they're just waving. Okay. I doubt any of them will give a speech until it gets to the end of the night and they say, listen, we're not going to know until the morning. We'll see you in the morning. Thank you so much, all that. They don't typically come out and give any kind of speeches unless it's to say, we're still in this, but it's going to take a while, or to announce win or loss, right? So, anyway. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming and hanging out. I appreciate you. Hi, Turbo. How you doing? It's good to see you. Georgia would be Pog. Georgia would be great. North Carolina would be great too. Here, he's talking about North Carolina. Let's see. We're just chit-chatting.
So then we come up here
and down a little bit. It's insane that New Mexico is leaning this way. We've never gone so far red before. Is it leaning red? Is it not blue? I don't know why that map had it blue. Let's see how they have it, because they're
of 2016.
Right they now, still have it. They still have it on their side as
Donald Trump is leading in Pennsylvania by 100
on what's coming in so far.
Votes. Only 67%,
which is a good
so
sign.
ways
But
to go
I've
there,
noticed, he said a few times,
races
even in
also
Pennsylvania
and
Michigan, that apparently Trump made some, gained some in Hispanic voting populations in places, which is wild to me, based on all the things he's been talking about and saying, but
very close.
Whatever. Hi, lady. Thank you for the 3 streak.
She's leading in Michigan.
What's the rundown? This is where we're at so far. We were doing some projections and playing around with the maps. The map we were just looking at was not very accurate.
Indeed, voting is about to end in 4 states out west. That includes the biggest prize of all, California, which has 54 of the 78 electoral.
They're going to officially start counting in every state.
We have a projection for you now. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the state of California with those 54.
It was 3 seconds.
Harris will win California.
California closed and they called it. Like, that's what I mean. Some of these
Idaho with its 4 electoral.
Idaho,
so what does
you
that
know
mean
where it's going to go.
For the electoral, too early to call. We have Washington State with 12 electoral votes and Oregon with 8 electoral votes. Too early to call. Let's go to the electoral map right now.
2000 to win in Georgia. Electoral college needs to be abolished. It's literally why. It's literally another one of those. It's the Fifth Third's compromise version for presidential elections. It was people that were very rich, owned a lot of land, and had a lot of slaves, and were like, hey, we don't have a lot of say because we're not letting any of these people vote. Only I'm allowed to vote, and my vote, I should have a little bit better weight, right? Why does my voice not matter? And that's when they put something like that in place.
356 vote lead with 51% of the estimated vote in from Arizona. Wisconsin, Donald Trump in the lead there too, 49.9% of the vote. Kamala Harris is 48.4%. Donald Trump has a 28,500.
Listen, I was talking about that too. Even if he wins,
59% of the estimated vote in.
liberals, leftists, progressives in general are all way more organized, way more active, and way more paying attention when a republic is in power. When Trump was in office, there were way more organizing groups. There were way more people paying attention. There were way more people fighting back. As soon as Biden was elected, a lot of those people shut the fuck up and disappeared, and none of those problems got fixed. So that gives me a little bit of hope, even if it goes that way. That there is still a resistance, there is still fighting. We also talked about like making sure your local elections are something that you put a lot of effort into and vote in, because those are the people that make the rules that relate to how these elections are allowed to go. So that's really important too. And if there's some wins there, that's still a win.
From the Tar Heel state. In battleground Michigan, Kamala Harris in the lead. She has 51.3% of the vote. Donald Trump has 46.9%. Kamala Harris is 74,838 votes ahead of Donald Trump. But that's less than
if you called Ohio. Ohio wasn't going to be swing
of the estimated vote
this year at all anyway.
The state of Michigan.
But yeah, it looks like
in the Commonwealth of Virginia,
over here.
Kamala Harris
we were looking at a map
still,
for a little while, so we
narrowly
missed probably a couple of calls.
50.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has 48% of the vote. Kamala Harris with a 73,375 vote lead. That is with 78% of the estimated vote in from the Commonwealth of Virginia. In New Mexico, Harris leads there too, 52.6% of the vote. Donald Trump with 45.
Hey, there's one way the Electoral College gets abolished. We do turn into a dictatorship, and then we overthrow them and write a new constitution. That's a win, right? Yeah, that's great. We love that.
Now to Abby Phillip, who is at Harris campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C., at the campus of Howard University. Abby, what are you hearing from the Harris campaign, if anything?
Nothing like a good civil war to reset the entire fucking government. You know what I mean?
From the Harris campaign.
I don't think that that's super likely currently.
Campaign manager Jen O'Malley Dillon, who
I'm not gonna be here and like sugarcoat and be like, oh, that's not even possible. But
what they see ahead in the coming days and hours, and my colleague Jeff Zeleny is here with me. The memo
I am hopeful
says, Jake,
and optimistic,
that the returns are coming in slowly. They still see their path, but that path is largely going to be through the blue wall, as Jeff and I were just discussing.
My ass is special selection. I can't do it. Hi, Cinnabon, welcome in.
Is that this is a close race. This is the close race that they have been expecting. She says to her staff, we are built for this. Let's finish the night out. We will see you tomorrow. They are not expecting this to be wrapped up tonight.
They are not, because the margins are so small. And just reading from that memo, should we have known all along our clearest path to 270 was through the blue wall states. And again, they point out the cities we were talking about, Milwaukee, Detroit, and of course Philadelphia. Abby, a central question hanging over all of this, and indeed the crowd here waiting behind us, is Vice President Harris going to address the crowd? That is a possibility. We will see in the coming days as we hear some helicopters overhead here. We will see. But the bottom line is they know this is a close race. This is going to be not.
It would be really cool to be there, but I also you're not going to know
Jeff,
tonight anyway.
This is a critical moment. I
so
think, for
you would have gone out there, and it would have been cool
campaign,
energy, but it would have also been like a little stale. You weren't going to get, you wouldn't have been there for the answer.
And Jake, it looks like they are not foreclosing really on anything in the map right now that is not called. They're still waiting for the polls to close in parts
polls
of the
closed,
Sun Belt,
and the second they closed, they went, yeah, California, duh.
But again, it's the blue wall again. It is it's Pennsylvania, it is Wisconsin, and it is Michigan, where the best chances are for Harris to get to that 270 that she
Which we're going tonight. It is the it's Taylor.
Phillip and Jeff Zeleny, thanks
Colonel
so
H.
much.
Taylor.
Let's go to John King.
I was like, I'm
going to
pull something good out for tonight.
John, explain the theory of the case
for
the Harris campaign right now.
Neoliberalism, which is really just, I was just talking about, I was like, we don't really have a truly left or progressive party. Democrats are realistically just like central Republican light.
Well, at the moment,
for the most part, anyway.
2 of the 3 blue wall states, that's Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, 2 of the 3 are red.
Yeah,
we're not done.
Didn't work out that well
most
of the time. There
2
is
of the
that.
3 are red. Why is that significant?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's another major city, and it's got.
Show this here. Donald Trump, 142,000 votes ahead in North Carolina. I can show you the live outstanding votes. And when I show you the live outstanding votes, you will see some pretty big circles
in
the blue areas, large metropolitan areas and suburban areas.
Another one of those things we haven't looked at this in a little while. Again, most, if not all, the massive majority of outstanding votes are expected to lead blue.
Is it mathematically possible? Are enough votes out there? Yes. When you get to this point in an election in a state Donald Trump won twice, you start to think, okay, this looks like it did in 2016 and in 2020. It looks more like 2016 than it did in 2020, to be honest with you. But you look at it, and if you're in the Harris campaign, you're calling all these counties, and you're trying to figure out, how many votes are out and what percentage are we getting. But if you're looking at the North Carolina map, I'd rather be Donald Trump.
Sure, not Canadian, the red change. So this map, yes, this map is currently what the current
this one, say this again, I'm a
count
broken record.
is. This is not what is called. This is not official calls. This is, even if 10% is counted and he's winning by one vote, it's highlighted blue on this map currently.
But Donald Trump was ahead
so this is
by
not
more than 200,000 votes at this point
on everything.
4 years ago. So let's just be cautious for the sake of being cautious.
It's hard to tell. It depends. When they're doing these live, they're looking at, this is what we know right now.
Votes ahead in a state that was decided by 11,000 votes last cycle. 88% of the vote is in. So where is the live outstanding vote? Live outstanding vote. This is where in the Harris campaign, you're just hoping that overnight, these Democratic areas report not just their votes, but a lot of votes. You're hoping turnout, exceeds your expectations. So you see down here in the Savannah area, this is where the races.
So these circles he was talking earlier, these circles are the bigger the circle, the larger the amount of votes that are not yet counted, and the color of the circle is the expected direction those counts are expected to lean.
Compare that. A little below where President Biden was.
So there are a lot of blue area votes, blue leaning area votes that have not been counted yet.
You can't really afford to be below him anywhere, or not by much anyway. You move over to Cobb County, 91% in. This is a big suburban county, right? So 91%, you have some change to make up there. She's at 57%.
What states we need? So we just did a little bit of that. I can pull that back up after we watch a couple more coverages. We have a few different combinations we can go with. We don't need Georgia and we don't need North Carolina.
11% left.
But if we don't get them, we have to get Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. If we don't get any one of those, we can make up for it with North Carolina or Georgia. But she doesn't need all of them. She needs some combination of at least like 3 or 4 of them. It doesn't matter which ones; they're all about worth the same. Pennsylvania's worth the most, but only by like 3 extra votes.
The state Joe Biden won by 11,000 votes. You can't really underperform, but she's underperforming in 28 of the 159 counties, right? So we have more votes to be counted. We're not done yet. This is not a final glimpse. But you see out in these rural areas, this is part of the secret of Joe Biden's win in 2020. He got his butt kicked by Donald Trump in these small rural counties, but he did better than Hillary Clinton. Blue-collar workers, rural workers, people who work with their hands, Joe Biden did just a little bit better. And in a state decided by 11,000 votes, that can matter. So again, you asked me about the map. We're not done. We're going to count. The Harris campaign will update us. They enter their counties. We have people on the ground asking the people, our vote desk with Pam Brown, what votes are still outstanding. But if you look at this map right now, I want to switch. Well, let's just check real quickly where we are in Wisconsin. 61%. I want to check Milwaukee. This is where, okay, only a 53% in Milwaukee. Black turnout in Milwaukee better be huge in the uncounted vote for the vice president to catch up. I talked to a Democrat out there earlier who said it was good. They didn't say it was great. They said it was good. And I asked if it was great, and they said it was good. So we'll see how that plays out. Dane County, 74%.
That's not surprising. She didn't run a great campaign.
Again, not to be
she didn't convince people that she was going to be great for them.
A percentage point
she
can
just
matter.
Them she wasn't Trump
by just a little bit. And so she's losing in Wisconsin. Got a ways to go there. She's holding on in Michigan.
Better than Clinton did, but
only
not.
At 32%. So we got a long way to go in battleground Michigan. We'll come back out here.
Not great.
And this one is the biggest. I'm going to show you why in just a second. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we've been saying it for weeks. 19 electoral votes, the largest of the battleground states out there. 72% in, 178,000 vote lead. That's a healthy lead. Now again, let's look. Let's look. There's a lot of votes. This is what happened. Remember 2020. Donald Trump was ahead in Pennsylvania. This was what brought Joe Biden back. They counted the votes, mainly in Philadelphia, but also in the suburbs around it. That was 2020. There were a lot more early mail-in votes then to be counted than there are now, but we shall see as we come out. And Jake.
Okay. Yeah, let's pull up. Actually, here, wait. I want to see his coverage is more.
This is the city of Stroudsburg. East Stroudsburg is here.
And
again,
then we'll go back to a map and
growing Latino population. And look at this.
We do have mail-in ballot voting. It is not the most popular method of voting, and it is only more recently wider and wider used. COVID made it a lot more used.
This is really
the majority of people still go in the day of.
I think it's important to know there's a lot of counties like this in Pennsylvania and Michigan.
This
and
is even
Wisconsin,
as close. This is very dark. in general. A little bit, yes. I don't disagree with you. I think that is true. I also think it says something about how bad of a campaign she was running.
Keep seeing this tonight.
She was running
tonight is back where he landed.
Not a good. She wasn't running a good campaign.
These were winning numbers for Trump. These were
it doesn't. She was running a worse campaign than she is as a candidate. She was running a better campaign than what Clinton was running, but she wasn't running a good campaign that was going to get people to actually want to vote for her and believe
I think
her.
we showed you 8 for Biden, less than 5 tonight. So you're also seeing it there. We continue to see it. Philadelphia, monitoring this as well. Now, more than 80% of the vote is counted here. Again, compare this to 2020. Biden won here, 81-18. We're going to take it a step further back.
Hey, Secure, thank you for the follow. Welcome in.
Longer-term trend here. In fact, I can take it all the way back to 2012 because I think it's an interesting story. In 2012,
doesn't usually get announced. Used to be the president has been announced the night of. Very often it's the next day. Lately, like Biden wasn't announced for like 4 days.
67 points. In 2020,
it just depends.
Trump lost ground in the state. Trump lost the entire state of Pennsylvania. But look at this. He basically brought it down to 63
So I'll pull up a map and we'll poke around in it. She doesn't need any individual. She just has to get these 3, these 2. She has a few combinations she can win with, but it's hard to say that.
What we saw in 2020, the Hispanic precincts of Philadelphia, we saw meaningful improvement for Donald Trump. We're not talking about 10, 20, 30 points here. We're talking about enough, though, to bring 67-point gap down to 63.
The Obama numbers are wild. You can barely compare that to anything. That's just not going to happen.
The margin for Kamala Harris